are psychological and enduring in the modern times. So, with this, we'll move to the first slide, which is the understanding archetypal hero. So, we'll be first starting with Hercules, and these are foundations of heroic narrative. Hercules as the hero of burden and redemption. So I am assuming that
Excuse
you
me,
all
madam.
know the basic
Sorry to
stories
interrupt
of
you, but your voice
Hercules.
is not coming properly. It is breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, your voice is not coming properly. It is audible, but it is breaking.
Okay. Breaking.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a second. Just a second. Just a second. Is it better now?
Yeah, it is now. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Again, you can just stop me in between if you find any problem in hearing.
All right.
So I did not covered much. I rather focused on that why
Your voice is still
these
breaking, ma'am.
heroic narratives, these are so much relevant and important to modern times. And I explored that how these narratives, the heroic narratives, are still being covered in the contemporary world. Okay, just let me see what is happening. Is this audible now?
Yes, it is audible.
Yes,
We'll
ma'am.
see if
It
it
is.
Okay.
then we'll see if it breaks. I will inform you.
Please let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start. I'll start again. So we were on the first slide. Like we covered the first slide,
Your sound is breaking, ma'am.
which talked
Your sound is breaking.
Ma'am, you're still not.
Ma'am, we can't hear it.
about that why the heroic story they still matter. And just give me a second. I talk to Rajvi ma'am. Just a second, okay?
Please.
Participants, we are fixing the issue. Please give us some time. So we are trying to fix the issue. Just give us a moment. Participants, just let me know if the PPT is visible.
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yes, ma'am, the PPT is visible. Is my voice better now?
yes, ma'am. Far more better.
Yes, ma'am, it is
Okay,
better now.
okay. So,
You're audible, ma'am.
okay, thank
You're clearly audible.
Okay, thank you. So, Rajvi ma'am will present the slide, and meanwhile I'll continue the lecture. Just a second, let me open the slide. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please change to the next slide? Yes, thank you. So, before this slide, I only discussed that why we still study these heroic narratives and why they are still very important. So, I gave the example from Marvel cinemas to Nobel Prize winning literature, that this hero's journey, they still continue to captivate, to inspire, to illuminate the human condition, and why the heroes like Hercules, Perseus, and Theseus, they are still so resonant, and they are still so, you may say, relevant after the years, thousands of years of Mediterranean fire. So in the subsequent slides, we'll be discovering their relevance only. So I started with the first archetypal hero, which is the Hercules. And Hercules is better defined as the hero of burden and redemption. And I assume that you people must be knowing the basic stories of Hercules, of Perseus, of Theseus, these stories, these heroes, which we'll be covering in today's lecture. Because if I'll go into the stories, the mythical stories of these heroes, so it will not be possible for me to cover the main context of this lecture in this slide. So even if you don't know, you can just focus on the lecture, you can note down the main points, and later you can just go through the entire story, because covering both their story in detail and their context will not be possible. So but most of you are familiar with Greek mythology, so I assume that you are knowing their stories like simultaneously. So if we begin with Hercules, the hero of burden and redemption, so he is perhaps the most famous of all classical heroes. But Hercules is not merely a strong man performing circus tricks with lions and with hydras. His story is fundamentally, it is about guilt, redemption, and the weight of responsibility. So there are very famous 12 labors of Hercules, which emerge from a profound psychological crisis. So, a very brief description that what were these 12 labors. So, Hercules is said to be the son of Zeus, and obviously from the other woman, not from Hera. So, Hera was naturally jealous from Hercules because of his might, because of his popularity and strength. So, Hera poisoned Hercules's mind, and in a fit of rage, Hercules murders his wife and children. So, as a redemption from this guilt, from this sin, he was supposed to perform these 12 labors, the very difficult task, after which he'll be redeemed from his sin. So, we are talking about these 12 labors only. You can read about these 12 labors in detail, but I'm here talking about what is the relevance of these 12 labors. So these 12 labors, they represent a profound psychological crisis. So what is this crisis? The hero's madness induced murder of his own family, which is not arbitrary violence but a representation of how our inner demons can destroy what we love most. Because each labor of Hercules becomes an act of penance, which is a step towards psychological integration and moral restoration. So, if we consider the first labor, which is the Nemean lion, he is supposed to kill this Nemean lion with its impenetrable hide. So, this creature cannot be defeated through conventional means like arrows bounce off, and the swords shatter, and and the lion goes into hiding. So what happens? Hercules must literally get inside the beast and strangle it from within. So this was the crux of killing the Neiman lion, that he has to go inside the beast, he had to get inside the beast and strangle it from within. So this is a perfect metaphor for confronting our deepest fears and traumas. So we cannot attack them from outside with rational thought alone, we must enter into them. So this entering inside the beast, it signifies a psychological defeat. So you wrestle with them intimately and transform them through direct engagement. So it is not killing through power, it is killing through might, through wisdom. So this psychological sophistication, it also continues in Hercules's struggle with the Hydra. So the Hydra whose heads multiply when severed. So it represents that how surface solutions to deep problems often make these problems worse. So the Augean stables cleaned by diverting rivers, it show how impossible tasks require creative reframing rather than brute effort. So the contemporary literature has embraced this psychological killing, this pattern extensively. So if we take an example of Toni Morrison's Beloved, so Seth's journeys, it mirrors Hercules' structure. She too carries the burden of having killed her child, and her path to redemption requires confronting one seemingly impossible challenge after another. So each represent a different aspect of trauma and recovery. So this is the relevance of Hercules. This is the you may say the modern implication of Hercules' struggle. Ma'am, can you please move to the next slide? Yes. So next in this continuation, we have Perseus, and Perseus can be defined as the hero of divine intersection. Now, Perseus represents a very different heroic archetype. So he is the favored son who must prove himself worthy of divine heritage. So his story explores basically the tension between fate and free will, between inherited privilege and the earned merit. So the Perseus myth is sophisticated in its exploration that how power structures operate. So Perseus receives divine gifts. The gifts were reflective shield, winged sandals, invisibility cap, but these tools are useless without wisdom, courage, and strategic thinking. So the key insight is that Perseus cannot look directly at Medusa. I hope you all are aware who was Medusa, and Perseus killed Medusa. So I'm referring to that only because that is the most important myth when we talk about Perseus, his most important action when we talk about Perseus. So Perseus obviously cannot look directly at Medusa, so he must see her through reflection. So this is a profound metaphor that you cannot directly look at your aim, but you have to look at your aim by reflecting. So this metaphor for how we must approach life's most dangerous truths, which is not through direct confrontation, which would destroy us, but through careful indirect examination. So the beheading of Medusa is not merely monster slaying. It is the transformation of destructive feminine power into protective force. So from Medusa's blood, it took birth Pegasus, because it is said in the myth that Medusa, when Perseus murdered Medusa, she was pregnant with Poseidon's child. So when she was murdered, Pegasus was born. So I hope you all know who was Pegasus. Pegasus is the white winged horse, and this horse, it represents inspiration and poetic flight. So this transformation, that killing, the destruction of Medusa, to the emergence of inspiration and poetic flight in Pegasus, it represents transformation from destruction to creative power, which is very much central to psychological maturation. So Perseus' simultaneous rescue of Andromache, it completes his journey. But you notice the structure. He doesn't rescue her through strength. Like Perseus did not rescue Andromeda through strength, but through the strategic use of Medusa's head. He has learned to transform his greatest challenge into his most powerful tool. So this pattern, it appears often through contemporary literature. If I have to give example, so we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, where the character Offred cannot confront the totalitarian system directly, so it would because it would destroy her. So what she does instead, she must develop indirect strategies, small acts of resistance, and ultimately which will transform her trauma into testimony. So, like Perseus with his mirror shield, this character of Margaret Atwood, she survives by learning to see truth through reflection rather than direct confrontation. So, you'll find this pattern, this Perseus structure, this pattern on and often repeated in literature. Ma'am, please, next slide. Yes, and now we have the third classical archetypal important hero, which is the Theseus, and he is described as the hero of civilization and choice because Theseus represents, you may say, perhaps the most complex of our archetypal heroes because his story is fundamentally about transition from chaos to order and from primitive to civilized society. So, unlike Perseus or Hercules, Theseus is not driven by divine mandate or personal redemption, but he is driven by a vision of what society could become. So, his simultaneous journey to Athens with his six labors, it establishes Theseus as a hero who chooses the difficult path when an easier one is available. So he could have taken the safe route to Athens, but instead chooses the dangerous land route, confronting bandits and monsters. So this choice reveals something crucial about heroic psychology, which is that hero seeks challenge not for its own sake, but because growth requires resistance. If you're not challenged, you will not grow, and you will not grow, you will not develop resistance, which is required to establish a just social order. And then the famous Minotaur myth of Theseus, which is there, it represents one of literature's most powerful symbols. That is the monster that is both beast and human. Minotaur was both beast and human. The monster that is both beast and human, hidden in the labyrinth beneath civilization itself. So, this labyrinth is not just a physical maze, but it is a psychological one. The complex parts of unconscious mind where our most primitive impulses dwell. So, Minotaur represents the psychological complexity, which is the struggle between, in a very simple way, the struggle between good and bad in order to evolve and emerge ethically and morally grounded and correct. And then we have the another famous myth of Theseus, which is the Ariadne thread, which is simply misunderstood as a tool for navigation. But if we consider the deeper symbolism, then Ariadne represents the anima. It represents the feminine principle that guides the hero through the dark passage of the psyche. So the thread is relationship itself. It is the connection to love, to wisdom, to guidance that allows us to venture into darkness without being lost. So it represents the wisdom in the darkness. It represents the, you may say, the moral ground of soul in the dark journey of mortal body. And then the Theseus abandonment of Ariadne on Naxos is perhaps the most troubling aspect of his story, and it's meant to be because it represents the tragic tendency of heroes to abandon the very principles that made their victory possible. A very brief reference to Ariadne was used by Theseus to defeat one of his enemy, and Ariadne was the daughter of that enemy. So Ariadne was genuinely in love with Theseus, and she helped Theseus win over the enemy. But ultimately, Theseus has to leave Ariadne because he cannot take her to his world. So the leaving behind and the Ariadne is helping, it all becomes the you may say the moral ground, the urge to fight over, and then you have to leave something behind, the psychological complexity that to choose and to leave, which is there in everyone's journey, that once if you stand for some moral ground, you cannot continue to stand on that moral ground forever. Like in very simple way we can understand that truth is not always what it seems to be. Our truth can be false to somebody else, and somebody else's truth can not be truth for us. So it represents the Ariadne is basically, it represents the complex moral ground for upholding the great virtue of upholding the might virtue. And simultaneously, this is not a flaw in the story of Theseus, but its most important part of Theseus' structure, his teaching, which is that heroism without wisdom, success without gratitude leads to spiritual poverty. So the contemporary authors have mined this rich vein extensively. So if you have heard about Donna Tartt's, there's this very famous work of her, which is The Secret History. We see a reverse thesis story there, because there you have a privileged students who believe they can transcend moral boundaries through intellectual superiority, and they ultimately create their own labyrinth of guilt and paranoia. So this absence of an Adriane figure, genuine moral guidance, leads to their destruction. So Ariadne is a very important psychological complex in Theseus' journey. She becomes the light. The light cannot always hold, because it is said that in order to defeat the evil, sometimes you have to practice the evil. So when you practice that evil, you have to leave a moral ground behind. So Ariadne thread, it becomes a very important psychological metaphor in Theseus' structure and in his journey. Ma'am, please next slide. Yes. Now we have Campbell's hero's journey, the universal pattern. So if you do not know who Campbell is, so Joseph Campbell, he gave an interpretation of monomyth. So what is monomyth? Monomyth is a single story which underlies all heroic narratives. So it is something like Freytag's pyramid. So Freytag's pyramid, it tells us about the basic structure of drama, be it tragedy and comedy. So Joseph Campbell has identified the heroic narrative, and Joseph Campbell has given the archetype and the devices of this heroic narrative. So this you may say Campbell's hero's journey, it represents one of the most influential literary theories of the 20th century. I have not covered his entire theory in this lecture, but I have given a very brief reference covering the major points, and rest you can explore on your own. But there's an important aspect which I wanted to discuss, which is that Campbell's work is often misunderstood as a simple adventure formula, but it is actually a sophisticated map of psychological and spiritual transformation. So what he has done, he has given a 3-act structure of transformation, that how this transformation takes place. So the very first element is departure. So what is departure? It is call to adventure. So the heroes journey, it begins not with action but with disruption. So there is a call to adventure, which is fundamentally a call to psychological growth. So in our classical example, this comes through crisis like Hercules's madness, Perseus's important task, and Theseus' need to claim his birthright. So the initial refusal of the call in these heroes is not considered as an act of cowardice, but natural resistance to transformation. Why? Because change is always frightening, even when necessary. So what happens following this call for adventure, when the heroes maybe reluctantly leaves for the journey, so the next subsequent step is that they meet with the mentor. So the mentor represents the moment when the hero encounters wisdom and traditions, whether through divine messenger, through wise teacher, or through symbolic guide. The hero will encounter a bridge, a kind of mentor who would help hero in his journey. And importantly, the mentor cannot make the journey for the hero. They can only provide tools, and knowledge. So they act as the most important bridge in hero's journey. Then the next element is initiation. So the initiation is basically the trials of transformation. So it is the crossing of the threshold marks the hero's entry into the realm where normal rules don't apply. So this maybe we can understand as an unconscious realm, the world of symbol and archetype where psychological transformation occurs. So the trial the hero faces are not arbitrary obstacles but specific challenges designed to develop particular capacities. So I talked about 12 labor and the struggles of these heroes. So these labors, these struggles, they represent the psychological transformation. So in mythology, these labors were not randomly designed. They were designed in order to inculcate some kind of capability in the hero and to develop the necessary potential and capacities. And this ordeal, which is basically it revolves around either facing death or your ultimate fear. It is the story's psychological climax. Now this is where the hero must surrender the old self to be reborn as somebody capable of handling greater responsibility. So in our classical example, Hercules facing his guilt, Perseus confronting Medusa, Theseus entering the labyrinth. So these are all the you may say the climax of psychological struggle. Now what happens? The reward is given, which is not treasure but the wisdom. It is the integration of new capacities that the trials have developed, and it marks the successful completion of hero's journey. And the last element, the last stage is written is the challenge of integration. Now the written journey is often overlooked, but it's perhaps the most important phase when the heroes has completely undertaken the journey and he has crossed all the hindrances and all the challenges. Now when hero come back to his own world, to his own normal order, that is the most crucial phase. Why? Because now hero, he must now integrate their transformation into ordinary life. Now, this is where many contemporary stories fail because they focus on the adventure but ignore the challenge of bringing wisdom back to community, back to their normal order. So, the return with the elixir is not about sharing some magical objects, but about how transformed individuals can transform their communities. So here the hero becomes a bridge between the ordinary world and the realm of deeper wisdom. Now, if we talk about the contemporary application of Joseph Campbell's heroic paradigm, so the Campbell's pattern has been both embraced and largely misapplied in contemporary literature. While Hollywood has often reduced it to action adventure formula, serious writers have used it to explore profound psychological and social themes. So, if we give a very latest example, so we have Adichie's Americana. Chimananda Ngozi Adichie's Americana, where we have Ifemelu's journey from Nigeria to America, which follows Campbell's pattern precisely. But the trials she faces, the labors she faces are racism, cultural displacement, identity fragmentation, and all these. So her return to Nigeria with new understanding represents Hero's return with wisdom that can heal cultural wounds. And similarly, we have Cormac McCarthy's The Road, where which deconstructs the hero's journey by presenting a world where traditional heroic solutions no longer work. So the father and son's journey through post-apocalyptic America follows Campbell's structure, but the elixir, the wisdom they carry, is simply the maintenance of human dignity in an inhumane world. So this becomes a very, you may say, relevant research topic, that how we can justly imply Campbell's theory to adventure literature, to adventure novel, and reinterpret and re-understand the grave psychological concern when it comes to heroic narrative. Ma'am, can you please change this slide? Yes. So now we have the contemporary relevance and evolution of this heroic journey. So the contemporary literature has both embraced and subverted classical heroic patterns, recognizing their psychological truth, but while questioning their cultural assumptions. So, we have one of the most significant developments in contemporary literature, which is the expansion of who gets to be heroic. So, classical heroes were typically male, and they were aristocratic, and they were physically capable, but contemporary literature has revealed heroic potential in previously marginalized voice. For example, if we look at Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, so Lauren Olamina follows a clear heroic journey structure, but as a young black woman with hyper empathy in a collapsing society. So her superpower is not a strength, but the ability to feel others' pain, and her heroic quest involves building community rather than conquering enemies. And again, we have like Jhumpa Lahiri's The Namesake, which presents Gogol Ganguly journey of cultural identity as a heroic narrative. So his trials, they involve navigating between Bengali and American cultures. His return with the elixir involves finding a way to honor both traditions without being trapped by either. And then we have collective and internal heroes. So contemporary literature has also expanded the concept of heroism, you may say, beyond individual achievement. So we have works like A Visit from the Goon Squad, which is written by Jennifer Egan. It presents a collective heroic journeys where entire communities or generations undergo transformation. And also we have rise of autofiction and memoir, which has created a space for internal heroic journeys. So in works like Educated by Tara or The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel Clock, the heroic journey involves confronting trauma, questioning inherited beliefs, and achieving psychological integration. And when it comes to psychological integration, you may say there is enduring relevance of heroic narrative, which lies in their function as guides for psychological development and social change. So first we have a kind of individual development where modern psychology, it recognizes that identity formation requires what mythologists call individuation. So what is individuation? It is a process of becoming who you are meant to be rather than who others expect you to be. So the hero's journey maps this process precisely. The call to adventure is the recognition that growth is necessary, and the trials develop require capacities, and the return integrates new identity with social relationships. So if we look at this contemporary coming of age literature, which draws heavily on this pattern. So we have many works where the journey through social rejection, through family trauma and cultural displacement, it follows a unique heroic pattern which address a specifically contemporary challenge of immigrant identity, of nerd culture, of gender issues and all. And then what happens, these stories, these heroic stories, they also basically they turn into the model for social change. So the civil rights movement, the feminism and the social justice movements, they all have consciously employed heroic narratives to frame their struggle. So in literature, this appears like that following the classical heroic pattern while simultaneously critiquing the idea that individual heroism alone can address the systematic oppression. The contemporary literature has kind of expanded the classical heroic archetype to include more, you may say, relevant address of heroism, heroic narrative, and most importantly, the journey of psychological transformation and the change that will impact the overall structure and the societal transformation. There are also some problem in this heroic narrative, which falls under the criticism and evolution, which is the very first problem, is the problem of violence. So classical heroes, they these stories, they often reflect resolving of conflict through violence, and they heavily focus on ancient warrior culture. So contemporary literature has increasingly questioned that, can violence ever be truly heroic? Any type of violence, be it physical violence or psychological violence. So this is one of the problem of classical heroic literature, that there is, you may say, glorification of violence, which becomes ultimately a tool to assess the masculinity and the power and the might of the hero. So this is an important critique of classical heroic narrative. And then we also have the individual versus community tradition. So if we look at the traditional heroic narratives, they perpetuate problematic individualism. That it is an idea that exceptional individuals are responsible for solving all problems. So whatever classical heroes we have, they are shown to be superhuman, extraordinary, extra normal, and somehow the contemporary literature has found problem with this dimension of being heroic, that you can be normal and you cannot be heroic. So this calls for a kind of collective heroism. So collective heroism is a kind of embracement of normative as hero, of normal as hero, of ordinary as hero. So this is a kind of critique of classical archetypal heroic pattern, that you do not have to be extraordinary in order to be heroic. You can be normal, you can be collective, you can be ordinary, and you can be hero. Clear? And then, ma'am, can you please move to the next slide? Yes, so we have, just a second, I've lost my slides. Yes. Yes. So, like, as we conclude our today's exploration, in the very first slide, I started with this question, that why these stories still matter. So the very first reason is that they reveal universal psychological patterns. So the challenges that Hercules, Perseus, and Theseus, they have faced, like the guilt and redemption, the tension between fate and free will, the transition from chaos to order, they remain fundamentally human challenges even in present times. So contemporary literature, it still continues to explore these themes because they reflect permanent aspect of human experience, and then they also serve as the framework for understanding change. So if we again look at Campbell's heroic journey, so it provides a framework for understanding that how transformation happens both individually and socially. This is why the pattern appears in everything from addiction recovery programs to business leadership training to social justice movement. You will find this heroic pattern applicable everywhere. And if we talk about this heroic pattern, so you have many literatures coming up where there is brutal self examination, an attempt to find meaning in ordinary, which follows the Campbell structure, which is the call to write honestly about the life, the trials of exposing to public judgment, the potential transformations, and the radical honesty. They have become the evolving themes in the contemporary literature. And this evolution continues. So in today's time, we have technological heroes. So this technological hero is the added dimension of classical heroism. It is a kind of new form of heroism. So we have, because such kind of technological heroes, they explore that what heroic responsibility means in the age of social media and surveillance. So we have climate heroes. So the climate heroes, they have created new categories of heroic narrative, and where the natural element, like the trees, like the nature, they become heroes, and human characters must learn to see their heroic journey as a part of larger ecological story. And then we have global heroic narratives. For example, we have Mohsin Hamid's Exit West. Just give me a second. I need a water, sip of water. Just a second. Sorry for inconvenience. Yes, so I was talking about global heroic pattern. So it has also expanded into global heroic narrative, and I was giving an example of Mohsen Hamid's Exit West, which presents a migration as a heroic journey where magical doors replace traditional supernatural aid, and the trial involves not monsters but bureaucracy, racism, and cultural displacement. So we have seen that how this classical paradigm has evolved into various types of heroes in contemporary literature, but they follow the similar Campbell heroic journey pattern, which is the departure, the struggles, and the ultimate transformation. And this is important for you may say to understand the evolution of cultural problem like individualism, violence, exclusion of certain voices. So this cultural narratives consisting of traditional hero and the new expansion and development on them, they can be used to inspire positive change. Like if we critically engage with these patterns, it will allow us to preserve the psychological insights while also evolving their socio-cultural practicality and applications. And so, with this, I conclude the lecture. And I would just like to mention very briefly that the hero's journey, which we have covered today, it is not just a story structure, it is the map of human potential. So, if we look at Hercules wrestling with guilt, to contemporary characters wrestling with identity, trauma, technology, social change, and whatnot, this gives us a framework to understand that how transformation happens. And perhaps the most important is that understanding these patterns help us recognize the heroic potential in our own lives and communities. We don't need superhuman strength or divine parentage to embark on heroic journey. We only need the courage to answer when the situation calls us to grow, the persistence to face our trials with integrity, and the wisdom to share what we learn with others. So, in this sense, every reader who deeply engages with these stories, who allows them to illuminate their own journey, who kind of finds in them the courage to face their own trials, every such reader continues the heroic tradition. And this becomes very important for literature enthusiasts, for academicians like us, because this is what we do in our day to day life. So, the journey, as Campbell recognized, and as we have seen in our classical heroic archetype, it never truly ends. It simply begins. And with each new generation, each new challenge, each new opportunity, the transform difficulty into wisdom and wisdom into service. This is the basic crux, the basic message of this heroic journey. So with this, I end my lecture, and I'm very short of time. So if you have any questions, so you can just please quickly raise it up. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Participants, if you have any doubts, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.